We go.
Okay.
Hungarian, please spell it Budapest, okay? So Pest side, flat side, this is where your ship is docked as well. And opposite, other side of the river, hilly side, Buda, okay? By the way, how old do you think Budapest is? Tell me years. How many? 1,000? 1,200? Actually, 151. Such as Budapest, because as a united city, we don't have it for long. Ha ha! That was the first tricky question of Christina. Good morning, everybody, okay? So we had Buda, we had Pest, and we even had old Buda that was already settled by the Romans. They were here before us, 500 years before us. Then they, the Roman Empire just collapsed, and we conquered this beautiful land from other tribes in 896. And I promise I will not tell you too many numbers, but this is very important, and I will refer back to it many times. So 896. Now we're on a square that is named after a very famous noble family, Széchenyi family. I will mention a few things about them. They were very forward-thinking people. Most probably today they would be called philanthropists. On the right-hand side is Ministry of Interior, where my sister works. So hello, sis. The next beautiful building is an Art Nouveau building. It's a Gresham Palace. It was built to be an office building. Can you imagine that? Now it's housing Four Seasons upscale hotel. And now please take a look on the right hand side, because you will see the Cathedral of Budapest. This is the facade of the cathedral, Saint Stephen Basilica, as we like to call it, and you can see the cranes, the yellow and blue cranes. We have a film shooting over there. Hungary is very popular in the film industry, because we can substitute nearly every city in Europe, and we are fairly cheap. On the right hand side is the Academy. That's why your ship is docked at Academia, okay? So say hello to your home. And on the other side you can see the beautiful castle district that we're going to visit in the second part of our trip. So now, looking at once again the oldest bridge, the chain bridge with the lions. Now you can take a better look at the Gresham Palace on the left hand side. And let me tell you just very shortly our very turbulent history. So, as I mentioned, we have conquered this land in 896. And for the success, there were two keys. We had a very special fighting method, firstly. Secondly, we had to convert. When we came here, we were pagan, nomadic, herding tribes. But everybody around us, there were Catholic kingdoms. So we had a very smart leader. We couldn't call him king yet, because he was just a tribe leader. And he decided we have to settle down, convert to Christianity, and adhere to the European values. And it was a question all the time. If you think about Hungary, kind of a potato in the middle of the European map, you need a magnifier to find it. The size is nearly as state Indiana, okay? Roughly 37,000 square miles, and about 10 million people today. So we had to convert to Christianity, and it was Saint Stephen, our first king, who converted the whole nation in 1000. So you were very right with telling me that Budapest is about 1,000 years old. Definitely Hungary and the Christian kingdom is about 1,000 years old. Now I can skip 200 years, nothing special happened, but came the first invaders in 1200s. They were the Mongolians. They didn't stay here for too long, however made a huge destruction, so we had to rebuild and repopulate the country. And then I'm skipping another 200 years, not very special, which led us to the late 1400s when we had our second most important king, King Matthias, and we will visit his beautiful church up in the castle district. Unfortunately, when he died, the kingdom fell into three parts, and this was the green light for the Ottoman Turks to invade the country. Unlike the Mongolians, they stayed here for 150 very damaging years. And then we invited our former enemies, the Habsburgs, to come and help us to defeat the Turks. They were kind enough to come and help, defeated them, and forgot to go home. Most probably you have heard the story, slightly different angle in Vienna a couple of days ago, right? Okay, so on the right hand side you can see Elizabeth Square, and I'm sure you already know many stories about Sissi and Franz Joseph. Well, Franz Joseph didn't like Hungarians. Sissi loved us, and she tried to melt the stone heart of Franz Joseph to give us Hungarians a little bit more rights. Franz Joseph just called us rebellious Hungarians because we had several revolutions against the Habsburgs. Well, all of them failed. But at least the last one paved the way for some kind of reconciliation and negotiations, which ended in the Austro-Hungarian dual monarchy, this very uncommon state form, one person in charge of two countries and two capitals, Vienna and Budapest, always in a healthy rivalry. So this was leading us to late 1800s, which was the golden peace period of Hungary. This was a time when we were the richest throughout our history, and I have to tell you, we were incredibly rich. We have the second museum in Europe, after the British Museum in London. We have the second underground, second subway, after the Tube in London. We have the second largest parliament. We built majority of the beautiful historical buildings, many structures, infrastructural improvements. Unfortunately, this ended with the First World War, where we had to join together with the Austrians, and which we lost. And as a result, we were very severely downsized, so we lost 2/3 of the territories of Hungary. So those territories were annexed to other countries, such new countries like Czechoslovakia or Yugoslavia, and the biggest territory to Romania. And you can see that Attila needs to face some challenges with other drivers not keeping the rules. Now please take a look on the left hand side. You can see the back side of the cathedral, and from here you can sense the sizes. It's number 2 in Hungary and number 6 in Europe. We are very proud of it. And now where Attila is driving us is the Hungarian Champs-Élysées. It was, yes, literally modeled after the Champs-Élysées. It's our Andrássy Avenue, named after the first Prime Minister of Hungary. As you can see, this is also closed, the road, from parking, because there will be film shooting here as well. So I will tell you a little bit later about the films what are being made these days, because now we have more important things to see. I encourage you to raise your eyesight from first floor up to second, third, even top floor, because there are beautiful decorations. When we built this avenue, and this was built for the millennial celebration, the 1000th birthday of the Hungarian Christian kingdom. So if you remember 896, it was in 1896, roughly 130 years ago. We threw a huge birthday party. And back at that time the rule was that 20% of the construction budget needs to be spent on the outside decoration of the buildings. This is what resulted in this beautiful avenue. And very soon, ladies and gentlemen, we will see the gem of the Andrássy Avenue on the left-hand side. So on the left-hand side, you ladies and gentlemen, you can see the Hungarian State Opera House. And let me tell you a story about it. And Franz Joseph, I already mentioned him. He said that he has one condition under which he allows us to build our own opera house, because there was already one in Vienna. And he said it needs to be smaller than the one in Vienna. Have you seen the one in Vienna? Okay, it's 6 meters, 18 feet smaller. But what he only realized when he came for the opening ceremony, that it's much more beautiful and much more richly decorated. So, according to the legend, after the first part of the opening ceremony, he stormed out and never returned again. And the reason was said to be envy. Well, unlike his beautiful wife, Sissi was a great opera fan, so she loved to come many, many times. She even has her separate royal staircase. It's on the left side of the building, with a beautiful staircase on the top. There is a huge mirror. Until today we call it the Sissi mirror. And it was there because, you know, she was very keen on her outfit and she wanted to check her outfit before she was presenting herself in front of the public. And of course she had the best seat, the royal seat, which is today's the most expensive seat and most probably not very frequently can be bought, because it's usually kept for the Prime Minister or for the President. So, now we are crossing a junction that we usually call the Broadway of Budapest, because on the left and on the right there are 3 stone theaters. Why am I using the word stone theater? These institutions are operating from September to June and closed for the summer, but we have open-air theaters as well, one on the Buda side and one on the island, Margaret Island. And those are already open because I was visiting a concert last weekend, and it's really nice to go there in a mild summer evening or in a not very hot summer evening. As I mentioned you today, or these days, we have a heat wave here. Actually, this heat wave was hitting South Europe last week. And if you follow the news, there were even some lethal cases. They closed down schools, institutions. They forbade to visit some touristical sites between 11 and 3 p.m., especially in Greece and South Italy. Luckily, we are a little bit more north to that, but definitely it's a bit hot here as well. So now we are crossing a junction that is called Octagon, after its octagonal shape, and this is the Great Boulevard, which is looking like a horseshoe. If you ever took a look at the Budapest map, we have 2 horseshoes, the small one and the big one, connecting 2 bridges on the Pest side. And very soon on the left-hand side you will see the most feared building of the country, which used to be the headquarters of the Nazis during the Second World War, and just a couple of years later it became the headquarters of the communist secret police, let's call it the KGB. So the grey corner building, if you look up you read terror. In the front you can see a concrete piece, that is original piece from the Berlin Wall, and you can see the iron chain. This is an artistical representation of the Iron Curtain that locked us away from the Western countries for 45 years. And if you have good eyes, you even saw some photos on the walls, because for the communists it was a place where there were questionings, torturings, even killings, and unfortunately those people never made it back to their families. During the darkest time of the communism, you know, everybody had to spy. And if you were approached by the secret police that you have to spy for somebody, you either said yes, or you were threatened with the life of your family, and then you said yes. So actually there was no way to say no. And unfortunately, people had to spy for colleagues, neighbors, relatives, sometimes even for their spouse. So that was a really tragic and dark time of the Hungarian history, which we luckily could leave behind us. And now let's enjoy the beauty of the Andrássy Avenue. On the right hand side, this corner building is the University of Fine Arts. Take a look at the decoration on the second floor. This is a very, very special decoration. I will show one similar decoration very soon on the left hand side. And I find it very fascinating for young professionals to come here and see the masterpieces of the former architects, sculptors and painters, and study in such buildings. Most probably you have realized that the cityscape is opening up a little bit. It's changing, so the street is a little bit more wide. We have the two service roads on the two sides, and the buildings are not more tall. If you can, yeah, we are just having this bus next to us. So if you can take a look on the left now, this corner building has the same artistical style. It's called the sgraffito. Sgraffito is coming from Italy, and you need to be the most talented and most professional painter to do it, because how it's made is that they are painting all the layers of the colors on top of each other, and then they are scratching it back to reveal the pattern. And I think now we are in the good time of the day, and you can see even the golden patterns as well, because it's a little bit shiny. So it's not shabby, it's looking like this. And now we are crossing a junction that is called Kodai Circuit. Have you heard about the Kodai method? No, but I'm sure you have heard about the sound of music. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I promise I will not sing again. Again, you can see the film trucks on the left-hand side. Today is a very, very busy day for the film industry. So actually it was Mr. Kodai establishing or creating this special language, the universal language of music, this door-to-door system that we call the solemnization. And until today, we teach it to children not only here, but in Japan, China, South America, and everywhere. And now we are reaching the last section of the Andrássy Avenue, where beautiful villas will be replacing the blockhouses with nice gardens. This is the Embassy district. On the left-hand side, the first embassy is the Russian, behind the double fence, and double fence for the good reason in the past year. And there are some other embassies like the Canadian, the South Korean, the Turkish, the Indonesian, and the Chinese. So this is number 4 most expensive district of Hungary, of Budapest. There are a few more hotels, maybe 2 museums, and a few lucky residents who can live here. And the price is because of the vicinity of the city park, because we are very soon reaching the glorious Heroes Square, the most iconic landscape of Budapest. If you do a Google search for Budapest, this will be definitely in the top 5 photos. I usually call it the 1,000-year-long open-air history book of Hungary, because even Hungarian teachers love to bring their classes over here to show our very long and sometimes very turbulent history. So let me start with the explanation before we reach the square. Oh, by the way, so the Andrássy Avenue was built for the millennial celebration, and Hero Square was supposed to be the gateway for the millennial celebration that happened in the city park 130 years ago, from March until October, during the good summer weather, not as hot as these days. So it was supposed to be the gateway, but actually it was not looking like this today, because we're not very good with deadlines. It was only finished 10 years later. But anyway, now we can enjoy it. Take a look at the middle column. On the top you can see an angel. The angel is called Archangel Gabriel. Archangel Gabriel presented the Hungarian crown and suggested the Pope to give it to the Hungarians. At the feet of the main column you can see 7 equestrian statues. Those are the 7 tribe leaders who conquered the land. Okay, behind them you can see the semicircular colonnade with 14 statues. They are only the shortlisted kings because we had more than 110 kings. So far left is Saint Stephen, our kingdom founding king, and here the second is King Matthias. We will visit his church a little bit later. On the right hand side, this little palace looking thing is just the reception building for the behind man-made lake, which is a rowing lake during summertime. What do you think it's for in the winter time? Exactly, ice skating. Imagine this, illuminated, beautiful surroundings, nice music. It's very, very popular in the winter. And if you look behind the lake, you can see, well, the balloon as well, of course, and this interesting castle. The castle was a model castle. It was a copy of 4 different castles, also built for the millennial celebrations, originally from paperboard and wood. It was supposed to be dismantled, but people started to protest to keep it. Of course, we had to dismantle it because it was made from flammable material, but then they rebuilt it from stone and it will stand here for another millennium. Further down on the right hand side there are 2 upscale restaurants. One of them is the Gunda, some of you might know it, the zoo, the circus, and Budapest's and Europe's largest spa complex, the Széchenyi Thermal Bath. Is anybody doing the bath tour this afternoon? Excellent choice, very good. If you're in Hungary, you definitely have to try our thermal springs. In the meanwhile, on the 2 sides of the square, you can see 2 museums. On the right hand side, the white, nearly white color museum is the Museum of Fine Arts. It's housing international collection. We are proud to have the 2nd largest Spanish collection after the Barcelona Museum. Whereas on the left side, the brown looking building is Hall of Arts, and even though it's looking very historical, inside it's housing contemporary. And actually the square, during its 130 years of history, has witnessed a lot, including political gatherings, religious events, sports events. So for example, during May Day we had to come here to protest how happy we are behind the Iron Curtain with limited opportunities and very low wages. Well, after 2 cheap beers it was not very difficult to pretend it. And now we are saying goodbye to Heroes Square on the left hand side and going backwards on the Andrassy Avenue because it is so beautiful that I definitely want to show both sides of it, and there are a lot more to tell about. Can you see the 2 yellow fences on the 2 sides with the staircase? That's the staircase down for the subway line, which is called the Millennial Subway Line or Yellow Line or Number 1 line. This is crossing from the city park to the city center, and it was inaugurated by himself, Franz Joseph and Sissi in 96. So if you travel this number 1 yellow line, you can travel the same line what Sissi and Franz Joseph was using. As I mentioned you, this is also the embassy district. 50% of the embassies we can find here. The rest of the countries opted for the nice view. So the other 50% of the embassies are in the Buda Hills on the other side of the river. Actually, I didn't mention you some examples. For example, the sports events. Imagine the whole square, Hero Square, covered by sand, and half of the Andrássy Avenue covered by sand for a huge horse race. We are still very proud for our equestrian heritage, and also we keep it alive. And by the way, is there anybody doing the horseman show this afternoon? Horseman show? Maybe not from this bus. Okay, so anyway, it's also nice to see a Hungarian horseman show. Very different from the one that you may have seen in Vienna if you have seen the dancing horses. Ours is completely different. So on the way back, let me tell you a few words about Hungarian cuisine, which may be okay, here are the films. Let me tell you about the films. Okay, so what I know exactly, that Ryan, well, not Gosling, who's the other one? Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, thank you. Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, with all their children, moved to Hungary for a month or two until Ryan Reynolds is shooting a film called Mayday. It will be about the Nuremberg trial, and he's playing Göring, the right hand of Hitler. Now if you are sitting on the right hand side, you can double check this Sgraffito house, the brown house on the right hand side. So this is one film that is running on now, but a couple of months ago we had Keanu Reeves here. I'm not sure whether he was directing or acting in the film. Before him, it was Johnny Depp directing a film about an Italian painter called Modigliani, and the film will be called Modi, M-O-D-I. Before them, Angelina Jolie was in Budapest for a couple of months because she was shooting a film, starring a film about the famous Greek opera singer Maria Callas. So Callas, I think it will be coming out later this year or maybe 25. So if you happen to watch the film, watch it with open eyes, that it was shot in the Budapest Opera House, and many parts of it have been shot here in Budapest. I find it very funny because Budapest can substitute Rome, Athens, Prague, Vienna, Paris, London, many things. I could list or continue the list. It can even substitute oh my god, the headquarters of NASA, Houston, yes, Houston. There is an interesting building nearby the Danube, and now we are again passing by the House of Terror on the right hand side, which is was the headquarters of the two autocratic systems, the Nazis and the Soviets. Well, I didn't finish our historical recap, so let me just quickly finish it. So we had the Golden Peace period when we finally settled with the Habsburgs, Franz Joseph and Sissi. We had to join the First World War. We lost the First World War. We lost many territories, like 67% of the former territories. The former territories we call Greater Hungary, when we were 3 times as large as now. And actually losing those territories, you know, it was called the Versailles Peace Treaty. Well, for us it was everything but a peace treaty. It was a forced treaty that we had to sign, and it was very unfair to many countries, and according to many historians, this was the indirect cause for the Second World War. And for us Hungarians to join to the Second World War, well, again on the wrong side, the reason was because there was only one politician in Europe who promised us to give back the lost territories, and I'm sure you can guess his name. Yes, Hitler. So we joined again on the wrong side, and unfortunately very soon we realized that that was a very bad decision. We wanted to drop out from the war, which was of course impossible. So we had the Budapest ghetto, we had the Holocaust, and just to make sure that we are staying in the war and we are staying at his side, Hitler came with the Nazi Wehrmacht, the Nazi army, in 44 and started to bomb Budapest. He wanted to make his way up until Moscow, using Hungary as a transit country. And of course the Soviets and the Allies didn't want to let this, so they made a counter-attack from the east just half a year later. So whatever was left by the Nazis, it was finished by the Allies. So Budapest was the most bombed capital of Europe, even more than Berlin. Roughly 70 to 75% of our beautiful buildings have been either badly damaged or completely demolished, leaving us with a huge reconstruction work to be done after the Second World War. And what happened? The Soviets came to liberate us from the Nazis and forgot to go home. You know, history is repeating itself. So the Soviets stayed here for 45 years, and we had the only peaceful and only successful revolution of Hungary in '89, when we declared our sovereignty from the Soviet Union and switched to market economy and democracy. So we're a very young, independent and democratic country, only 35 years. We are still on the learning curve, so please be patient with us, it takes time. But we hope that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So now we are again reaching the internal inner city section of the Andrássy Avenue. And by the way, as many of you have realized, now this is the place to spend a fortune on Italian and French haute couture, on Swiss watches and everything you want, because we have all the international brands here. And I know that the ladies are very sad that we don't have the time for a shopping break. At the same time, I hear the sigh of reveal from the gentleman's pocket. So very soon we will reach Opera House once again. So if you're sitting on the right hand side, you can take photos as well. But in the meanwhile, let me tell you the opposite building, which was also built to be an office building, and other insurance companies' headquarters. So now you can also take a better view of the opposite building as well, and now you can spot the W in the middle arcade. So this building, the old office building, had a very interesting story. I'm not telling you all the details, just in very big steps. So it used to be the Ballet Institute during the communist times. Unfortunately, after it became abandoned and it became into a very deteriorated, I can never spell this word, so very bad condition. And the W has bought it quite a couple of years ago, spending half of a fortune on the renovation, but they made a fantastic job there and opened up the latest flagship of the chain in last August. So now it became one of the lately opened upscale hotels of Budapest. By the way, is there anybody who's doing an extension here in Budapest? Okay, I see a couple of hands. In Prague? Not from this bus, maybe. Yes, okay. So I'm sure that either you picked or Viking picked. It will be a fantastic hotel, because we only work together with the, like, let's say 5 or 6 best 5-star hotels of Budapest, and Budapest is now packed with these hotels. So now, as we will do a left turn, you can take another look at very soon, after the traffic lights, the cathedral, the Budapest Basilica. That was named after Saint Stephen. And actually the location is very interesting, because it's a Thanksgiving cathedral, and most probably my colleagues in Vienna have mentioned about the great flood that happened 180 years ago, making a very big destruction in Vienna, Bratislava, but most probably the biggest here in Budapest. And all the houses between the cathedral and the river, I will take you to the lookout point in the castle district, and you will see how large territory that this is. So all the houses in between them were washed away by the flood, about 2,500 houses, leaving roughly 60,000 people homeless. So now cathedral on the right hand side. And we are back at Elizabeth Square. This is District 5, the most expensive district of Hungary, the administrative district, the heart of the city. So you can find here everything, and yes, on the other side of the district your ship is docked, so the perfect location here in Budapest. You can see the Budapest Eye, the Ferris wheel, of course. No Central European or European city can exist without a Ferris wheel. If you stay in Budapest, I would not recommend to take it. Most probably the owner would kill me for this, but it's a little bit of tourist trap because it's not tall enough. Just when you reach the top of the houses, before you would say wow, you're already on your way down. So you only see the surrounding houses and the square, where we also have the Ritz-Carlton and the Kempinski. And now where Attila is driving us, we used to have the medieval city walls. So on our right hand side is the historical city of Pest, on our left hand side is the Jewish district, these brown brick houses. Being a Catholic kingdom, the Jewish people were not allowed to trade and live within the city walls of a Christian or a Catholic city. But as the city started to expand, all the city walls were demolished. So unfortunately, we can no longer see them. And the Jewish district became integrated part of the city, such as Jewish community became full-right citizens of a Christian kingdom, which was one of a kind back at that time. The Jewish district was also the ghetto of Budapest during the Second World War, and here I have to mention the tragedy of the 600,000 Jewish people who were deported from Hungary to German lagers, and unfortunately not many made it back to home. How important the Hungarian Jewish community was is shown by the size of our biggest, I'm saying biggest, synagogue, because we have 8 operating synagogue until today in this district on our left hand side, and the biggest one is actually the second largest. Is there anybody from New York? I don't hear yes, so I could say it's the largest, but actually it's the second largest after the New York one. Okay, it's able to accommodate 3,200 people. It was built in the 1700s, designed by a German architect, and it's built in Moorish style. It's a very interesting architectural style. It's more looking like something like an Eastern building, Eastern type of Oriental type of building. Have you heard about the Neolog branch of Judaism? Neolog? So actually they are the ones who are a little bit more modern, so they are not the Orthodox Jewish people. They are treating the rules a little differently, still keeping Shabbat and still keeping the dietary restrictions and everything, but they are a little bit more modern people. And actually in Hungary we have majority of the Jewish people belonging to this branch, and the largest synagogue as such is serving the Neolog branch of the Judaism. So on the left hand side, ladies and gentlemen, you can see the Dohány Street Synagogue of Budapest. It's also very unique because it was part of the ghetto, and as such we have a cemetery behind the synagogue that is not very typical in the Judaism. So it's a one of a kind. And this is not only a religious venue but also a concert venue as well, because nearly every month or every 2 months they have something like klezmer or jazz or some fusion concerts here. Inside it's also beautiful and stunning. They have English language guided tours which sell out fairly quickly, but if you have the opportunity and the interest, it's also possible to visit from the inside. Interestingly, the Jewish quarter became also the party district these days, so if you want to hang out, this is the perfect place to come. Have you heard about the ruined bars or ruined pubs of Budapest? Not really, at least I didn't hear any yes. So let me tell you how they were created, and this is also taking us back to the Second World War. Wherever you sit, left or right hand side, the structure of the buildings are the same regardless of the architectural style. So first floor is for all the social units, shops, offices, restaurants, bars, everything that we need for everyday life. Residential units, second floor and up. After the Second World War destruction, first we had to focus on reconstructing and renovating the residential floors, of course. Therefore, the first floor premises were abandoned for a very long time. Even during the 90s, there were very abandoned units, and some smart entrepreneurs realized this business opportunity, and they rented them out and turned them into a low-profile bar. Inside there was sometimes only a bicycle hanging down from the ceiling, all furniture hanging upside down from the ceiling, or there was a pink flamingo in the corner and you were sitting on a I don't know what kind of special old bench. So inside they literally were in ruins. That's why we started to call them the ruined bars or ruined pubs. Now we have roughly more than 70 ruined bars, and it's very popular for the tourists as well to visit one or more of them. And now this junction is named after the Hotel Astoria. On the left hand side, the brown brick building was built by the Astoria chain, recently bought by a Hungarian hotel chain, but of course we will keep the name because even my grandparents know this junction as Astoria. And maybe until we reach the bridge I'm coming back on the foods, and I'm sure you know the most popular Hungarian food, the goulash, of course, which is made with paprika. Yes, the most typical Hungarian souvenir, the paprika. By the way, did you know that paprika is from America? Now you can buy it and take it home as a souvenir. Okay. So actually it was used by the indigenous people, and the Spanish, after conquering America, they took paprika, I mean the plant, with them, because Spain had the same favorable climate to grow paprika. And the Turks, who were ruling us for 150 years, they were trading with the Spanish on the Mediterranean Sea, and this is how the paprika arrived in Hungary roughly 500 years ago, and now we call it endemic Hungarian. It comes in different forms and shapes and tastes, so make sure you double check it before you buy it. We have the sweet, the smoked and the hot one. We have dried paprika, we have the paprika powder, which is of course the most typical and most popular, and we have the paprika paste as well, that looks like a very thick curry, to put it this way. And another typical Hungarian souvenir is the wine, because Hungary is also very famous for winemaking, even though you didn't hear it, most probably. You know, you have heard about French and Italian wines, haven't you? Yes, they have the better marketing, and marketing is expensive. So we just have the good wines, and I will come back to the wines when we reach the Castle District, because in the meanwhile we will be crossing the beautiful and elegant Elizabeth Bridge. On the right hand side, the Castle District, the Chain Bridge and your ship. On the left hand side, the green bridge is Liberty Bridge. Originally it was called Franz Joseph Bridge, so husband and wife were standing next to each other in Budapest as well. The hill on our left hand side is the Gellért Hill, and on the top now it's very difficult to see the lady because now she's under renovation. The best timing is always the touristic peak of the touristical season. I don't know why they cannot do it in the winter. So we have our Liberty statue. You can check it out on Google. And if you look up to the hill, you can see the Archbishop, the green statue with the golden cross in the hand. He's our former Archbishop. He used to be the right hand of Saint Stephen, supporting him in converting the country, converting the nation to Christianity. Unfortunately, this conversion was not a peaceful one because the pagans wanted to remain pagans. So what they did, they kidnapped the Archbishop because they didn't want him to have such a great power. they put him into a large barrel and rolled him down from the hill. Well, unfortunately he didn't make it in one, so we were not only pagans but maybe a little bit barbaric as well. So that's why we named the hill after him, Gellért Hill. Gellért is a G-E-L-L-E-R-T. Majority of the Buddha hills are made of limestone, so inside they look like an Emmentaler cheese. In the Gellért Hill we have two huge caves where we store 20% of the daily consumption of the Budapest drinking water. So this is the largest drinking water reservoir of Budapest. And as we reach the Danube banks from the Buda side, now you can enjoy the Pest side view, two upscale hotels, Marriott and Intercontinental, and in between the Pest Concert Hall. On the left hand side you can see the Royal Gardens. This is leading us up to the Royal Palace, the green domed building, which used to be the seat of the Hungarian kings, well, and all the foreign rulers throughout the centuries. And we are approaching the chain bridge, which is Széchenyi chain bridge. I mentioned you this noble family. So father was responsible to establish Hungary's first, Europe's second museum, the Hungarian Reference Library. The son established the academy, that is where your ship located, and the chain bridge as well. So the chain bridge was our first permanent bridge built by Mr. Adam Clark, a British man, who came to Hungary, fell in so much love with the country, well no, with a Hungarian lady, that finally he lived the rest of his life here, not only designing the bridge but the tunnel opposite as well. And you know, we have a joke for the little kids that when it's raining and it's cold, we just pull in the bridge into the tunnel so it wouldn't get cold. And now you can see the royal seat on the left hand side, and Attila is kind enough to take us up to the castle district so we don't have to climb ourselves. And here in the castle district we also have an extensive cave system in the hill, which was used for different purposes throughout the centuries. We Hungarians, we kept the most important things here, you would never guess, meat and wine. And then came the Turks, they used it for prison and torturing, were not so nice. Then came the Habsburgs, they were very practical people. They knew that the caves have a very stable temperature throughout the year, so it's very good for preservation, so they used it for, well, prisoners again, and preservation. And finally we were even hiding from the World War II bombings in the cave system. We had a hospital over there, and we used it for many other purposes. And if you can look up on the left hand side, there's this beautiful Matthias church, and in front of the church the fisherman's bastion, the lookout terrace of Buda. And because now we are very soon to our drop off point, I would like to ask you to switch on your quiet boxes. I'm on channel 13, channel 13, and I would like to do a microphone test before we leave the bus. So this is a restricted zone, that's why Attila needs to drop us off, and he will come back to pick us up at the end of your free time. And it will be 11:55 latest, but I'm asking you to come for 11:50, okay? Don't come earlier, he will not be able to come earlier as well. So 11:50, 10 minutes before noon. If you already hear the bells chiming, you are late. You will have to second largest. Where do you think there is the largest parliament? Do you have an idea? Yeah, many people say it's London. Actually, ours is bigger than the one in London, BBB. The largest one is in Romania, Bucharest. You know, there was a guy called Ceausescu. He was a megaloman. He loved to build huge things, but ours is more beautiful again. So number two in the world, it was modeled after the Westminster Palace, so that's why it might remind you to the London Parliament, but ours is slightly bigger, it's wider actually. You can see it's a beautifully symmetrical building, because we had two major parts of the society during the 1800s, Lords and Commons. So we had a bi-chamber parliament, House of Lords and House of Commons. As we see the parliament, left side, which is actually a north wing towards Vienna, House of Lords, south wing, right wing, House of Commons. Until today this is our operating parliament. Now it's a single chamber parliament. Which side do you think our MPs are using? House of Lords or House of Commons? You're saying Lords? No, they don't deserve. They're using House of Commons, okay? Right side. But if you look at it, the left wing is open for public. It can be rented out. So don't forget, if you have some kind of nice family celebration, a wedding anniversary or a birthday, there's a nice venue here in Hungary, okay? Even Freddie Mercury wanted to actually buy the parliament. Freddie Mercury from Queen. Yeah, he said he wants to stay here. They said it's impossible, this is the parliament. Okay, then he will buy it. They said it's not for sale, sorry. Yeah, that's very typical for Freddie Mercury, I think. Okay, if you can still see the parliament, right? Considering that we are in the continental climate and we have cold winters, at least used to have, you must miss something from the top of the parliament. No chimneys, yes, I can hear that. No chimneys is the good answer. Yes, the Westminster Palace burned down as a result of a heating accident in the 1830s. And because our parliament was built 60 years later, our architect learned the lesson, and he said that this unique building should never burn down. Just to give you the idea how expensive it was the most expensive building of Hungary of that time. From the same coast we could have built a full town for 25,000 people, okay? So that was quite pricey. So he said there would be no furnaces in the building, but the furnaces are in a neighboring building, you know, expendable building. And the hot air is transported through an underground pipe system into the main building to heat it up during the winter. And I think that was quite a smart solution. So in front of us you can see this flat yellow bridge. And if it might remind you to one of the bridges over the Seine, that is for the good reason, because it was designed by a French architect. And it is the only bridge that has no columns on the top, so it's decorated from the lower part. You can see angels and the different mythical and allegoric figures here at the pillars. And actually I was mentioning you the Mongolian invasion 800 years ago. Well, this bridge of course is not as old, but there's a story I would like to tell you. So our king, back at that time, King Bela IV, he made a vow to God. People were very religious, they really believed that God is directing everything. So he said that, dear God, if we survive the Mongolian invasion, I will offer my one and only daughter to your services. Nice offer, huh? Not himself, but the daughter. So, suddenly, a year and a half later, the Mongolians left. We couldn't believe we defeated them. If Hungary is size 1, one of you told me we are very vulnerable. Exactly, we are way too small. So we couldn't believe we defeated them, because they are at least like 37 times larger than us. But much later, it just turned out that we were lucky with timing, because the Khan, the emperor of the Mongolian Empire, died back in Asia. And for them it was a tradition to withdraw all the forces for the new Khan election. So we were lucky with the timing, unlike little Princess Margaret. She was only 8 when she had to leave the palace, the royal palace, you know, with the green dome, and moved to the island behind the bridge. As we will be crossing the bridge, you will see the island as well. So that's why we named the island Margaret Island, and the bridge, which was built much later, like 600 years later, Margaret Bridge. And this bridge is also unique for something because it's kind of broken in the middle to connect not only Buda and Pest, but also Margaret Island into the circulation of the city transportation system. And ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself. On the right hand side you will see the beautiful UNESCO World Heritage listed panorama of Budapest. In the far back the cathedral, in the front you can see the parliament, then the bridges, Chain Bridge, Elizabeth Bridge and Liberty Bridge. Liberty ladies dressed up, you know, with the framework on top of the Galliard Hill. And see, there's a bus in the middle of the river. Don't worry, it will not sink. It's the so-called duck bus. It can be a bus and a ship, a boat as well. On the right hand side you can see this tiny little yellow bus in middle of the river. On the left hand side you see the greenery, the Margaret Island. And after we make the turn, you have a better view of the Buda side, the royal seat, the royal palace, and then you can see the cranes. I was explaining you all those buildings, and then the highest white sphere, the Matthias Church. You can see this white building on the right hand side and the Hungarian coat of arms and the crown on the upper right corner. This is our White House. Well, nothing to do with yours, it's just named White House after the color. This used to be the center for the Communist Party during the communist times. And now these are the offices for our MPs, because it's just walking distance to the Parliament. And I mentioned you that the Parliament until today is an operating Parliament. We have 199 well overpaid MPs. You know, their job is to go to the Parliament and vote on the laws. And there's a broadcasting channel, they are broadcasting the parliamentary seatings. I don't think I could ever find broadcasting where I could count 199. They're way too busy to go to work, you know. So now Attila is taking us nearby the Danube banks, and you can see we have this interesting double embankment system on both sides of the river, Buda side as well as Pest side. This is a north to south connection in the city, and still even we have to, it's very busy as you can see. And this is also a tool in our hands for managing the river, I mean the flooding. 2 weeks ago this was nearly covered by the water, but actually it was closed down for safety reasons. So, you know, the river was regulated quite well after the Great Flood with different waterlocks, but still we experienced the floods. And just to tell you that in the past 10 years we mainly faced drought. So having a green flood, actually this is the green flood, the late May, early June, which is a result of the May rains. We didn't see green flood since 2013, that was 11 years ago. And luckily we don't really have the icy flood, which was the devastating huge flood 180 years ago, which is the result of the snow melting from the Alps, and it's usually coming in middle of March. And last Christmas we had a surprise from the river, because at Christmas there was a completely unexpected flood. We had way too much rain in December as well, barely any snowfall, so the climate is changing here as well. Earlier we had very cold winters, rainy and windy springs, mild and warm, mainly dry summers, and kind of windy, nearly cold falls. Now it's completely changing. I usually say that we have 4 seasons, sometimes all of them on the same week. So I can actually throw out my spring clothes, because usually Monday, Tuesday is winter, Wednesday is already summer, somewhat in March, sometimes in April, then switching back to winter, switching back to summer again. And now the summer is becoming very hot and very stormy. Winter is mild with barely any snowfall. Yeah. Just a few words about Hungary. So I have mentioned you the size in territory and in population as well. So 10 million people. We're a very long existing country. Since 2004 we are part of the European Union, and we are also part of NATO. And now you can see that I didn't lie you, it's really a bus floating in the river. Yeah, I've been there. It's running for like nearly 20 years. Well, it's quite tricky. The terrorist attack of last October, when they attacked the festival, the music festival in Israel. So this one now, you can see the shoes on the right hand side.
Actual shoes or put on later?
And now we are very close to reach back to your ship, so just to give you a short recap of what we have seen today. First of all, showing you downtown, we were driving along beautiful Andrássy Avenue to reach Heroes Square, and on the way back we showed you the synagogue. Then we were crossing Elizabeth Bridge, the white one, towards Buda, taking a short walking in the Castle district to visit the beautiful Matthias Church, and on the way back we passed through another ladies' bridge, Margaret, so a queen and a princess bridge, and showing you the parliament at the shoes. We are now reaching back to your ship. I know you're hungry already. I hope you had a good time with us. On behalf of Attila and myself, I would like to warmly thank you for joining us today. I hope you had an excellent time. It was our pleasure to have you on board, and because I know that some of you are flying home tomorrow, safe flight for those of you. If you are staying either in Budapest or in Prague, I'm wishing you a few more fantastic days here in Europe, and I hope to welcome you back some days, because now you see that Budapest has a lot more to offer to you. So thank you very much once again. Please double check your belongings before you leave the bus.